Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly market roundup with Oanda Asia. Busy week this week. Absolutely chock-a-block full of tier one data from around the world and major US tech earnings. Won't dwell too much on those earnings, but I believe that the main event will be tonight, the Federal Open Market Committee, Federal Reserve rate decision meeting. This meeting will be unchanged with rates, but the market is nervous about a change in forward guidance. I don't believe that this is going to happen because the second that the Federal Reserve starts talking about tapering, we're going to see a huge taper tantrum across financial markets around the world. Equities will tank, bond yields will rise, and the dollar will strengthen, and that's not something that the Fed wants to see happening right now. Nevertheless, we have seen equities starting to retreat a little bit through Asia and early Europe, and we've seen the dollar strengthen overnight. And I believe most of this movement is because investors are just moving into just-in-case mode. So even though they don't think the Fed's going to do anything, they do believe that they should be prepared just in case that they do. And so they've been taking short dollar positions and long equity positions off the board. I fully expect those to go back on again into the end of the week. We have China PMIs and we have US GDP and personal consumption to come this week. And I expect they will all be very, very strong. And the buy everything trade will return with a vengeance into the end of the week. Looking at a couple of things around the financial markets that have caught my eye. I'm going to keep it pretty boring today, actually. I'm going to talk about falling wedges. And we're seeing a lot of these formations on some quite major currencies, and they are bullish patterns. Firstly, here's the euro versus US dollar. And we can see here that it actually broke out of its falling wedge at 118. It actually is targeting 122 or thereabouts, perhaps as far as 122.50. It's a reasonably mature short-term trend, but I do believe that if we pass the FOMC without incident, then the uptrend from 121 will resume for euro versus US dollar as the market piles into the European trade as its vaccination program picks up as a cyclical recovery trade. Looking at the Australian dollar versus the US dollar, a major barometer of risk sentiment around the world. We can also see that the Aussie traced out a pretty strong base around the 76 level. It has broken out of its downward wedge as well, and it is actually targeting 0.8000 over the coming days as well, if all things stay the same. Similarly, if we go to the New Zealand dollar versus US dollar, the Kiwi, we can see here it has also broken out of a falling wedge, and assuming that the FOMC yet again passes without incident and it is as dovish can be, which I fully expect, then we should see its uptrend resume as well. Aussie and Kiwi matter because they're used as proxies, particularly against Asian currencies, for sentiment and risk. And when they're both strong, that usually means that investors are quite bullish on everything else, including equities, etc., etc. Finally, let's have a look at oil. Let's just change direction completely for a moment. Oil itself has been, and we can see the Brent crude chart here on the screen. It's been ranging between 64 and 68 over the last couple of weeks. Interestingly, last night, though, the US API crude inventory figures came in much, much higher than expected, which would normally be bearish. OPEC starts raising production next week, also potentially bearish. India, the third largest importer of crude oil, is suffering from a COVID-19 wave. We know all about that. Bearish for oil. But oil actually rose overnight. And that says to me that the bullish sentiment and momentum is picking up and that the weak side of the trade is now the upside. We can see that it's made a very strong base at 64.5. And my initial target is the top of the range at 68. So again, if the FOMC passes without incident and the bullish buy everything trade starts again, we have a high chance of seeing Brent crude moving to the upside. That's all I've got time for this week. Thanks for tuning in and have a wonderful and profitable week ahead.